The music industry as a whole can be extremely fragmented, especially hip hop, or rap, or trap, or whatever genre that most people think of when they associate that with hip hop as a whole. Is hip hop dying? Let's define what we're talking about. We're talking about all facets of music that has to deal with 808s, trench music, boom bap, 90s, 80s, 70s, the whole thing. We're talking about rap and modern rap right now. If you've been looking at the charts, you've noticed that this is the first time in almost 10 years that there hasn't been any rap song in the top 40, which is honestly scary. If you don't understand, we've had musical dominance from legends such as Lil Wayne, Drake, Kendrick, Nicki Minaj, Tyga. Yes, that dude. Yes, he still counts. If you got a song with over 1 billion, you still count, bro. But the problem being that this domination wasn't easy. Most of this was done through cutthroat label tactics, was done through openly pushing out small artists, and now you're left with a lot of giants that are at the end of their career, but there's no one new who they put in the right position, pause, to you now have no one to pass the mantle to. You might have artists that are really talented or artists that are able to do that lyrical level, such as a JID, but then you have artists like Ken Carson where their lyricism might not be the focus, but their hype, impact, album sales, and their studio sessions along with their actual in-person concerts show that they have the industry on lock. So you're dealing with this weird equilibrium where you have talented artists in general, but you have talented artists lyrically that aren't having the same amount of success. And then you have artists that are more of a vibe, an aura, an underground sound, a beat production who are having a lot of success, but because of their perspective and their narrative, they're making the artists in the industry as a whole not value and respect the lyricists. It basically makes it feel as if you have a drought while also having others being fed at the same time. You see, in this new era of music or rap industry as a whole, it's very fragmented. You're not gonna hear a lot of artists from the quote unquote underground, which is the subset of rap music where a lot of the 17 to 30-year-old audience is, who can't really get that mainstream push yet, but have a lot of experience and a lot of sounds that are gonna get them to that next level. Biggest artists such as Playboi Carti, who is now a worldwide phenomenon, are some of the artists that came from this era, as are artists like Chippy Red, Rich the Kid. The list goes on and on and on. Even the Migos, if people know it or not, one of their first hit songs, Plug, came from this era with Rich the Kid and Playboi Carti. The rap industry isn't dying. In a lot of ways, it's actually evolving. It's fragmented, of course, but it's facing some real hardships. One of the biggest things being that this streaming era has really made it hard for almost every artist to make money in the normal sense of it. You see, back in the 90s, before you had the streaming era, one album was about $15 and the artist got paid a good amount of that royalty. In this new era, people aren't buying albums one single at a time. They're streaming, and 1,500 streams equates to one album sold. So instead of paying that $15, an artist instead has to stream a song 1,500 times to make that same amount of money for that one single album sold. So artists such as Lil Wayne are known as cultural phenoms because not only were they able to sell over 1 million first week physical copies, but they've even streamed and did over 700,000 first week sales in the streaming era. However, with this new era, because there's so many artists, new music, new drops, and it's become easier than ever for your random schmo to just be able to go on BandLabs and create a new preset to good beats, and now you're an average rapper when 5-10 years ago you wouldn't even have been able to get into the door. Now, the total amount of US money and revenue from music this year is $17.7 billion. That's with a B. Now, the highest shares of that, which is almost 30%, is rap/hip hop. How is rap the most financed brand in the world, growing every single year, has the highest amount per music shares of music being made and being profited off in this country, yet the numbers are all showing that the industry is going on a downward trend? Everything except, of course, the money. It's true that the biggest artists, the biggest entertainers, the Beyoncés of their group, the Weekends, the Drakes of their lanes are of course still profiting and making a lot of money, but for the small artists, it's never been harder for them to establish and get their roots in. Sure, it's easier for them to make music, but if it's easier for the worst artists to make music, that only means it's a lot harder for the up-and-coming talented artists to get any type of love or effects shown in the industry. Bottom line, revenue is growing overall in the global industry. The rap slice is shrinking from its 2010s peak. And it's not peanuts, these are millions of dollars. For some, tens of millions of dollars. You have to realize, but for over 20 years, we've had a steady stream of dominance. 50 Cent versus Kanye. Then we get into the Jay-Z era. Then you have the strong New York versus South era where you had Andre 3K or some of the early dudes in the up-and-coming rap game. Then we get into 1909s, 2010s, YMCMB, Drake, Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, Tyga. Then from YMCMB, we then go towards the West Coast where they're going stupid, crazy. Kendrick Lamar, killing them. Then you go into the, Midwest area / North Carolina area where the Villa's back, J. Cole, insane. The dominance is going crazy everywhere you go. Then once you get out of that area, you go into prime 2014, 2016, Chief Keef, Southside Chicago, O Block. Then you go to Lil Durk. Then you have a strong dominance when you go back to New York when there's Pop Smoke going crazy, A Boogie going crazy. These New York artists putting on for their teams. The music was never at an all-time high like the 2010s.